By all the laws of modern physics, this creature is impossible. If a snake of this size existed today, it would die almost instantly. It wouldn't be killed by a predator, and it wouldn't starve. It would be killed by its own biology. In our modern climate, a snake this size is a biological impossibility. Its metabolism would collapse. It would be too cold to digest its food. It would rot from the inside out. It would be crushed by its own gravity, unable to lift its head from the mud. In our current world, an animal of these dimensions is a biological glitch, a violation of the square cube law that governs the limits of life on Earth. And yet, 60 million years ago, deep in the suffocating, choked swamps of what is now Colombia, the laws of physics were different. The world was burning. The average global temperature was so high that the polar ice caps had turned into tropical rainforests. The atmosphere was a heavy, wet blanket of carbon and steam. And in that thermodynamic hellscape, nature produced a nightmare that grew until it hit the absolute mathematical limit of biological possibility. Meet the Titanoboa, a 42-foot engine of constriction that weighed as much as a small bridge and didn't just bite its prey, it folded them. Today, we are going to open the files of dark biology to answer a terrifying question. Why did the Earth have to burn to create this monster? And now that the planet is heating up again, could the conditions for its return be slowly coming back? Subscribe now. To understand the horror of the Titanoboa, you have to stop looking at it as an animal and start looking at it as a heat engine. But 60 million years ago, during the Paleocene epoch, that ceiling was shattered. Following the extinction of the dinosaurs, the Earth entered a period of extreme global warming. The Cerrejón Formation in Colombia, the place where the Titanoboa was found, wasn't just a swamp. It was a pressure cooker. The average temperature in this jungle never dropped below 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The humidity was locked at near 100%. It was a suffocating, wet sauna, where the air was so thick you could almost drink it. For a mammal like us, this environment would be lethal. Our bodies generate heat, and in an environment that hot, we can't shed it fast enough. We would die of heat stroke in hours. But for a reptile, this was rocket fuel. With the ambient temperature effectively preheating its body, the Titanoboa didn't have to waste energy keeping warm. It could funnel every single calorie it consumed into one thing: growth. This phenomenon is called gigantothermy. When the thermostat of the planet cranks up, the reptiles expand to fill the available thermal space. The Titanoboa wasn't a freak of nature. It was a symptom of a feverish planet. It was a creature brewed in a cauldron of climate change. And because it was fueled by the sun itself, it became an unstoppable force. A modern anaconda creates a lot of metabolic waste. It gets tired. The Titanoboa lived in a world where the energy was free. It was a solar-powered hydraulic press that never ran out of battery. The Titanoboa was a constrictor. But even that word is too gentle for the violence it inflicted. Let's talk about the physics of the kill. The vertebrae of the Titanoboa, the individual bones of its spine, are massive. When paleontologists first dug them out of the Cerrejón coal mines, they didn't think they were looking at a snake. They thought they were looking at the fossilized remains of ancient crocodiles. That is how robust the bone structure was. This wasn't a long, thin whip. This was a thick, muscular tube, wider than a tractor tire at its thickest point. When a modern python constricts you, it doesn't break your bones. It simply squeezes your chest tight enough to stop you from inhaling. You die of suffocation. It is a slow, quiet drift into unconsciousness. The Titanoboa was different because of its immense weight, over 2,500 pounds, and the sheer diameter of its muscular coils. The pressure it exerted was catastrophic. We estimate it could produce constriction forces of over 400 pounds per square inch. To visualize that, imagine lying on the ground and having the entire Brooklyn Bridge stacked on your chest. This isn't suffocation. This is structural failure. When the Titanoboa struck, it wouldn't just wrap around its prey. It would slam into them with the force of a car crash, coiling instantly. When it applied pressure, the prey didn't just run out of breath. Their ribs would shatter, their internal organs, the liver, the kidneys. The heart would burst under the strain. The blood vessels in the eyes would explode. It didn't just kill its prey. It did this to animals that were themselves monsters. It would crack the armor, crush the animal inside, and swallow the wreckage whole. This is cleithrophobia, the fear of being trapped, taken to its absolute biological limit. There was no struggle. There was no fighting back. Once those coils closed, you weren't fighting an animal anymore. You were fighting geology. The Cerrejón wasn't a clear blue lagoon. It was a complex network of muddy, tannin-stained rivers and choked swamps. The water would have been black, filled with rotting vegetation and silt. This is where thalassophobia, the fear of deep, dark water, comes into play. The Titanoboa was semi-aquatic. Its massive weight made it sluggish on land. Gravity is a harsh mistress for a creature that heavy. Dragging 2,500 pounds across the mud costs too much energy. But in the water? In the water, the monster became weightless. It could drift silently, submerged beneath the surface of the Black River, with only its eyes and nostrils breaking the waterline. Or perhaps not even that. It could hold its breath for 45 minutes, resting on the riverbed, looking like nothing more than a fallen log or a ridge of mud. Imagine being a prehistoric crocodilian, swimming through the murk. You are an apex predator. You fear nothing. The water is your domain. You don't see the snake. You can't see anything in the silt. The only warning you get is the sudden displacement of water, a massive change in pressure as something the size of a submarine accelerates towards you from the gloom. The attack would be over in seconds. The strike of a snake is one of the fastest movements in the animal kingdom, and despite its size, the Titanoboa retained that reptilian reflex speed. It was the ultimate ambush predator. It turned the entire river system into a minefield. Every shadow, every submerged log, every ripple could be death. And because it was so large, it had no natural enemies. Nothing hunted the Titanoboa. It was the king of the abyss, ruling over a humid, claustrophobic empire where it could kill whatever it wanted, whenever it wanted. But even kings have a weakness. And for the Titanoboa, the weakness wasn't another animal. It was the planet itself. The Titanoboa was a creature of excess. It was a biological gamble that paid off only because the conditions were perfect. Over millions of years, the Earth began to cool. The greenhouse effect that had turned the planet into a sauna began to weaken. The polar ice caps returned. The global temperature dropped. For the mammals, our ancestors, this was a blessing. The cooler air allowed warm-blooded animals to thrive, to grow fur, to regulate their own metabolism. It was the dawn of the age of mammals. But for the Titanoboa, it was an apocalypse. As the ambient temperature fell, the snake's massive engine began to stutter. Remember, it was a heat engine. It relied on the environment to run its metabolism. As the world cooled, the snake became sluggish. It could no longer digest its food fast enough. A meal that used to take a week to digest now took a month. The massive meals rotting in its stomach became a liability. Its movements slowed. It couldn't hunt. It couldn't generate the explosive energy needed to crush a giant turtle. The very thing that made it a god its size became its coffin. Smaller snakes survived. They needed less heat. They could hide in burrows. They could adapt. But the Titanoboa was too big to hide. It was locked in to its giant form. It was a biological brick wall that couldn't pivot. And so, the monster starved. It didn't go out in a blaze of glory fighting a T-Rex. It simply ran out of fuel. The planet changed the settings. and the Titanoboa was deleted from the server. The story of the Titanoboa is usually told as a history lesson, a relic of a forgotten time, a curiosity to be marveled at in a museum. But in the archives of dark biology, we know that history is circular. The conditions that created the Titanoboa, high carbon levels, high humidity, soaring global temperatures, sound familiar, don't they? We are currently living in a period of rapid planetary warming. The thermostats are cranking up again. The poles are melting. The swamps are expanding. It takes millions of years for a species to evolve into something like the Titanoboa. You don't have to worry about a 40-foot snake appearing in your backyard tomorrow, but the precedent has been set. The biological code for the monster is still there, buried deep in the DNA of every boa constrictor and anaconda on Earth. It is just waiting for the trigger. It is waiting for the heat to return. Nature deleted the armor of the Dunkleosteus because it was too heavy. Nature deleted the size of the Titanoboa because it was too expensive. It seems that in the end, the greatest killer in history isn't a predator. It's efficiency. The Titanoboa was the ultimate extravagance, and nature eventually balanced the books. But as you go to sleep tonight, safe in your climate-controlled home, just remember, the only reason you aren't being hunted by a snake the size of a school bus is because the air conditioning is still on. Stay on the boat. Don't look down. For more investigations into the dark, bizarre, and unbelievable side of nature, subscribe to Dark Biology. You will never look at the world the same way again.